My next guest started out her career in law, clerking for Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. In fact, when she realized she'd rather be writing instead, in her best-selling The Happiness Project, she laid out a path to, obviously, happiness, and millions followed her there. In her latest book, Gretchen Rubin argues that it all comes down to four, what she calls tendencies, or personality profiles, which govern just about everything we do and give us a guide to make our lives better. I'm joined now by author, blogger, podcaster, and one-time Jeopardy clue. That's unbelievable, Gretchen Rubin. Doesn't get much better than that, does it?
It was pretty exciting, I have to say.
I can tell.
That was a happy day.
Okay, so 3 million people thought the Happiness Project would make them happier. That's 3 million in one pile. 1.3 million have taken your quiz about this Four Tendencies thing.
Yeah.
What are they, and what do they mean?
So it's upholder, questioner, obliger, and rebel, and it has to do with how you respond to expectations.
Okay.
Outer expectations like a work deadline or a request from a friend, or inner expectations like a New Year's resolution.
Okay, and tell me what each of them are.
So upholders readily meet outer and inner expectation.
You.
That's me.
Okay.
Readily meet an outer expectation and an inner expectation.
Okay.
Then there are questioners. Questioners question all expectations. They'll do something if they think it makes sense. So they make it an inner expectation.
You're looking at one, by the
Yeah.
way. Thank
And
you.
so
I took the quiz.
And do you object to anything arbitrary, inefficient, or irrational?
I object to everything. So that's actually a little simpler than
that's
that.
very
But yes, I
questionable.
like to think that, actually.
Yeah. Then
Obliger?
Obligers readily meet outer expectations, but they struggle to meet inner expectations. So they have no trouble keeping the work deadline, but when they're trying to follow a New Year's resolution, they struggle.
And rebels?
Rebels resist all expectations, outer and inner alike. They want to do what they want to do in their own way.
And you told me today Donald Trump, even though he hasn't taken the quiz, would fall into that category.
Yeah, I think his supporters and critics alike would agree.
Now, if people don't understand what you just said, can you read another variation? Somebody sent you a different way to describe the tendencies. Could you read those, please?
Okay, this is the classic change a light bulb joke.
Exactly.
Okay, how do you get an upholder to change a light bulb? He's already changed it.
Exactly.
How do you get a questioner to change a light bulb? Answer, why do we need a light bulb anyway? How do you get an obliger to change a light bulb? Ask him to change it. How do you get a rebel to change a light bulb? Do it yourself.
I love that, actually. So why does this, you also said, you were on the radio with Marge Regan and me today, and you said you really can't change your tendency. So what's the point? Who cares? You find who you are, but then what do you do with it?
Well, I think it helps in two ways. One, you understand yourself better so you can have more compassion for yourself. If there's something that you can't do, you don't need to beat yourself up. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to use the insight that you get from your tendency to figure out how to find a way to solve it. And it also lets you get along better with other people because maybe you have some kind of conflict because you see things in a different way, and when you understand someone's tendency, you can communicate more effectively.
Okay, so I asked you this today, and it seems that if this really works, and the feedback you told me you've gotten has been really positive from people who've taken the quiz and then subscribed to this notion, an employer, I'm about to apply for a job, should they ask me to take the quiz before they decide whether to hire me?
I think it's useful information to know, and if we hire you, it'll tell us like what kind of environment is going to help you to thrive, and if your tendency is one that might make you not a great fit, like that's good for both people on both sides of that decision.
Okay, and somebody's watching at home is contemplating going out on a date with John Doe or Jane Doe. Do they send them the link to Gretchen Rubin's quiz and say, take it, send it back to me, and I'll let you know?
Well, I think it's always good to have more information.
I'm serious, by the way.
Well, I think it can help because it's like in some tendencies pair up better than others.
You know, you don't like the term self-help. Is that right?
You know,
it looked like you're bristling.
Personal development.
Why do you not like it? But it is self-help, isn't it?
You know what? It just has a bad rap. I think people, I mean, look, you know, Aristotle wrote self-help. But I think right now in our culture there's sort of this idea that it's like shallow or superficial or very sort of careerist. But really, no, you're right. Self-help, it's like if it's how to live a happier, healthier, more productive life, that's a good thing.
Well, how did you come up with the notion that how we respond, I mean, the central thesis is obviously how we respond to expectations, both internal and external, are this incredibly pivotal, determinative thing. How did you come to that conclusion, and why are you so sure you're right?
Well, I came to it because I was working on a book called Better Than Before, which is all about how people formed habits. And I noticed these patterns that when people could or couldn't form habits successfully that really seemed puzzling to me, or things that people said. Like, people would say, well, I would never keep a New Year's resolution because January 1st is an arbitrary date. Well, why would they say that? Or why would people be able to go to an exercise class but they can't exercise on their own? how did you explain it? And so I came up with the Four Tendencies as a way to make sense of a lot of patterns that I saw. And the thing about the tendencies is once you know them, they're blatant. They're not subtle. They're everywhere around you. I see them when I'm watching Game of Thrones or Parks and Recreation. I'm reading Harry Potter. They're all over the place. So they go to something that's very basic, and I think the way people behave.
Do you feel a Bert? I mean, I'm adding up the numbers in my head when I just said, so far, at least 4.5 million people between the Happiness Project and this, and add on the other people who bought your other books, have basically said, this woman, who I don't even know, has the path out of the wilderness for me. I mean, this is a serious question. Do you go home at night and say, this is a heavy burden for an individual to have when so many people in this country have put their faith in your pathway?
Well, it's thrilling and gratifying to think that my work strikes a chord with people. But basically what I say is that it's you. It's you. It's what kind of person are you? I just am trying to give you insight into yourself. So it's people are doing the work themselves, but I'm just trying to shine a spotlight on different aspects of their nature to make it easier for them to figure out how to do that.
Any of your methods ever failed you?
Oh, sure. I've tried and failed meditation twice. I can't meditate. Mm-hmm. Gratitude journal drove me crazy. Never had a date night with my husband in my life. There's a lot of stuff that I don't do. Yeah.
Okay, so today you told me, as I said, that Trump was a rebel.
Yes.
How about, as Trump likes to call her, crooked Hillary, Senator Clinton, Secretary of State Clinton? In the spirit of full disclosure, your husband is the son of the former Secretary of the Treasury for Bill Clinton, so we get that out of the way. But Hillary Clinton, where does she fall in this thing?
Well, one of the things about the tendencies is that it's very hard to know from the outside what someone's tendency is. You have to know what they are. You have to understand their reasoning or see like a very obvious
pattern.
You don't
know about her?
I can't tell with Hillary Clinton because I don't
okay.
know. But Trump, with President Trump, it's very obvious because
everything is really obvious.
Yeah.
Last thing, you told me also today there's no gender divide. You know what I did? You have a quiz for 1.3 million people. I asked 10 people to take the quiz today. 5 men and 5 women. Every man was a questioner, and every woman was an upholder or obliger. You think that's aberrational? It's not a full enough sample because you believe there's not a gender divide.
10 people is a sample.
And you think there's no gender difference at all in this thing?
I mean, the biggest tendency is obliger for both men and women. Then there's questioner, then rebel, then upholder. And then upholder, and then rebel is the smallest one. Yeah.
It's fast. I love the thing. Take the quiz. Well, you took the quiz. You take the quiz. Gretchen Rubin, it's great to see you.
It's so fun to
Thank you so much. The book again is The Four Tendencies, the indispensable personality profiles that reveal how to make your life better. You can find more information on that and all her books, her podcast, her blog. Plus, as I said, take the personality profile quiz. It only takes 5 or 10 minutes for yourself at GretchenRubin.com.